The words V-A-T. Hello and welcome to this video. Now, I know the words VAT, which stands for value added tax, is definitely a tricky subject to understand, especially if you first come into business. And the biggest problem with VAT is there's that misunderstanding, miscommunication, and people are not understanding exactly what VAT means from the outset. So grab yourself a seat, grab yourself a coffee, and let's talk about exactly what VAT is, and then let's understand how it should affect your business. And stay tuned to the end, because the whole point of this video is to try and make it so that you can see that in theory, a business shouldn't be affected by VAT. So let's have a look and gander together.
Whenever I'm with you, I am alright. There's something about the way you make me feel inside.
Hello and welcome to this video. My name is Patrick. I'm a chartered accountant, certified UK trainer by Intuit, and also that QuickBooks Chap on the internet. Now, as head of accounts over at Boffix, one of the things I get asked on a daily basis is VAT, and more VAT. It's one of those taxes that if your business is involved in, you have to make sure you understand exactly what it represents. There's a lot going in VAT. VAT is one of those transactions and one of those taxes that is quite in depth and something that there are a lot of things that need to be considered. So let's first break down some of the myths. Myth number one, there's this misconception that if you have a business, you are automatically VAT registered. And that's not the case. VAT is a tax, but it's one of many taxes that you being in business may or may not have to worry about. First of all, there's a criteria before you are even eligible to VAT. First of all, setting up a business as a sole trader or as a limited company doesn't mean that you are VAT registered at that point. VAT registration is an additional scheme that you need to apply for. And in some circumstances, you may not even be eligible for VAT. Okay then, so when you start out a business, if VAT is a choice, and if VAT is something that you need to decide to enter the scheme, at what point must you be VAT registered? And this is one of the most important aspects of VAT. There are certain times where you don't have a choice, you have to be VAT registered. And at that point, it's about your income. Now, it's about your turnover income and it's about the gross income. But it's also about what you've earned in a rolling 365 days, so a whole year. Now, at the time of recording, the VAT registration threshold was £85,000, which basically means during a 365-day rolling term, your company would have to earn £85,000 for you to be forced to be VAT registered. Okay, so we're starting to get somewhere now. We're starting to understand that if you earn over £85,000 in a particular 365 days, or your business earns that, then you are forced to be VAT registered. And at that point, you have to apply for VAT. But what does VAT actually mean? Well, let's break that down. Well, in essence, being a VAT registered business means that when you sell something, you should be adding VAT onto that sale. Now, it depends on what you're selling, but the majority of the time, that's going to be 20% VAT on top. So an example, if I was to sell you some services now, I would sell you, say, £100 of services, and with that £100, I then have to add 20% on top. So my final bill to you will be £120. It's important to remember that VAT itself is designed to actually be only applicable to the people who are taking that end service. So let's put that in context. Here's BB-8, right? If I'm going to be selling BB-8 some services, then me as a VAT registered business should just be charging my particular services and then adding the VAT on top. The person who suffers VAT in that situation should be this guy. So it's the end person that suffers the VAT. They're paying an additional amount for the services that they're interacting because they're buying from a business that VAT registered. What's your role in all this? Well, you're collecting that VAT. So every time I sell an item and I add £20 on top, then I have to hold that £20 on and then I pay it over to the government, HMRC, via a VAT return. Okay, so I just said that it's the person, the end consumer, in this case BB-8, who's going to be the person who's going to suffer the VAT. But it doesn't end just there, does it? Because you're a business and you don't just sell things, but you also buy things as well. And if you're buying things and that's got VAT on, well, again, you're not the end consumer because then you're selling that service, you're selling stuff to someone else. So as a VAT registered company, every time I buy something and I'm being charged VAT on it, then I get to claim that VAT back. Okay, so let's create a scenario here. I've just created ABC Limited. I've created ABC Limited and I've now VAT registered them. Remember, creating ABC Limited at the start of it won't necessarily mean I'm VAT registered. Now that I'm VAT registered, I now sell my services to the general public. When I sell my services to them, I'm adding VAT on top. So let's make it really simple. I sold £1,000 of services in my first month, and on that I've added £200 to it. So far I owe HMRC £200. And if I was doing my VAT return at that point, I'd have £200 in my top box, which is how much I've sold, and then basically what's owed to HMRC would be £200. Well, for me to be able to sell these services in the first place, I'm going to have to buy stuff. So let's imagine that during the period of this month, for me to sell those £1,000 worth of services, and I've charged £1,200 because of VAT, but for me to charge £1,000, I need to buy in £240 worth of equipment or materials or purchases or something that I've then had to use to sell the item. Well, I need to check the invoice or the receipt that I got for that item. But if I've been charged VAT on it, so in that case £40 of VAT, then that's VAT I get to claim back. So at that point then, not only do I collect £200 from HMRC, but I've now incurred £40 worth of VAT that I've claimed based on what I've had to pay to get to that figure. So what that means is I now have £40 at this point, which is my input VAT. VAT I've suffered. I can then look at all the other expenses. So things like telephone costs, my accountancy fees, my costs to QuickBooks themselves, all of those transactions will have VAT or potentially have VAT on them. And if they do, and I've got a bill and a receipt to prove it, then I get to claim that back. So imagine that I've added all of that together and I've got to a point where I've got £80 of input VAT that I can claim. Okay, so what do I need to do with HMRC and all this information now? Well, what I need to do is I need to show that I have that £200 at the top, show that I've had £80 of input VAT that I've incurred, put that on my return, and then that basically means that what I owe to HMRC isn't the £200 I've collected during the period, but it's actually £120. And that's because I'm able to say that I was also suffered the VAT of £80 as well. So I've collected £200 off people that I'm selling my services to, and I'm only going to pay to HMRC £120 because of VAT I've suffered. And that opens up a can of worms, doesn't it? Because that means that for you as a VAT registered business, you want to make sure that you're 100% clear on every VAT that you incur. Because remember, every time you incur VAT, that's an opportunity for you to be able to claim that VAT back and reduce the amount of VAT that you've got to pay over for your next period. Now, VAT doesn't just stop there. There's more complications to it, there's more schemes. There's actually quite a lot of complication regarding VAT itself. But in a nutshell, doesn't matter what scheme you're using or anything else, the principles are the same. And the principles are that you as a VAT registered business should be adding VAT onto the services you sell and should be very vigilant to any VAT that you might have incurred on expenses. Now, when I say VAT you've incurred on expenses, you should have a receipt for that. You should have an invoice to prove that VAT that you've incurred. Because remember, you as a VAT registered business, when you sell your products and services to someone else, one of your requirements is you've got to give them an invoice or receipt that says that their services include VAT of X, Y, Z. And you've got to get that same document, that same invoice, that same receipt for you to be able to claim the VAT back. So the first myth I told you at the beginning is that you have to be VAT registered, or that when you set up a business, you're already involved in VAT. We've discussed that at length, that's not true. But another myth that I hear a lot of is that VAT is problematic for my business. But think about the principles just there. Think about the principle that at the heart of what VAT is just you charging more for your services so that you can then be able to claim or collect VAT on behalf of HMRC, while at the same time making sure that anything you're paying for is suddenly 20% cheaper or however much VAT you've been paying on, because you're able to claim that VAT back. So in theory, a VAT registered business should actually be neutral from VAT. Now, I did say in theory. So there are going to be circumstances where businesses just can't add 20% to their sales. And that's because they're in an environment where they're competing against people who aren't VAT registered, who are under that threshold. Now, for a lot of those businesses out there are schemes available to try and make the transition more palatable. Flat rate scheme, margin scheme, partial exemption scheme. There's all these schemes out there that deserve videos of themselves to explain exactly what they are. But I promise you, as a business, you getting to that VAT registered point and being forced to be VAT registered should be a badge of honour. That's showing your business is doing well. That's showing you've got growth potential, showing you're a legitimate business that is actually pushing some really good turnover at this point. That being said, for some businesses, you shouldn't just wait for the fact that you've got to be VAT registered. For some businesses, you should actually be considered VAT registered early. If you're in that startup phase and you don't plan to make any sales for the first 12 months or whatever it's going to be, well, you might as well claim the VAT back. Some businesses, every time they make a sale, their VAT is at 0%. Well, they should definitely be VAT registered from day one, because that means that every time you make a sale, you add 0% on, but you get to claim back VAT from other things you've sold, means you'll be in a net refund position from day one. So VAT, let's not kid ourselves, it's complicated. It isn't a straightforward tax system. But remember two things. First of all, being a business isn't necessarily mean you're VAT registered. Get that clear. Second of all, being VAT registered isn't necessarily a negative thing. Get that clear. If you can get both of those clear, then that's going to help you massively. That's going to give you the confidence and understand exactly what VAT is all about. So, over to you. Comment below, let us know how VAT has affected your business. Let us know what parts of VAT complicates or makes it difficult for you the most. The more comments we get below, the more content we can produce on VAT to help you out. And that's what all this channel is all about. You're a small business, you need a help from us. We want to be able to give you the content you need. So talk to us, comment below, talk to us about what you need. And while you're at it, why not think about subscribing as well? This is first of many topics. We've already got a raft of content on our channel about how small businesses can benefit from getting the right advice. And we want to make sure that going forward, you also get the right content that you need. So subscribe, like, all that jazz, and we'll make sure you get the content that's designed for your business. Also, if I've scared you off completely from VAT, don't forget to talk to us as well. I promise you, our services for helping you be VAT registered and running a business from VAT point of view are much more cost effective than you could probably imagine. So reach out to us, let us know if we can help, and we can make sure that your business is VAT registered properly. And there we have it, VAT, value added tax. There's your first look into it and hopefully explains to you exactly what VAT is all about. Don't forget to like and subscribe, don't forget to look out for our next video on this particular subject. My name's been Patrick, Head of Accounts here at Boffix, and I will see you in the next video. Bye for now.
I told him I can be a fighter if you want. I'll be there to catch you if you fall. I can make it brighter when it starts. I told him I would do it all for you, and I know you do it for me too. I can be a fighter if you want. I can be a fighter. I can be a fighter if you want. I can be a fighter if you want. All the way that I feel, yeah, I know that it's real, cause I can get him out of my head. I don't care what we do, everything's feeling new. Even if we stay in bed, my heart is saying yeah. You know I want him, nah. My heart is saying yeah.